Ice storm, winter weather advisory, emergency weather briefing now on Weather Buff. I'm Jack Knack, the weather medic, the doctor of weather, with your ice storm winter weather advisory emergency weather briefing for Buffalo and Western New York. This covers the time period from the mid-afternoon on Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023 through dawn on Thursday, February 23rd, 2023. Well, let's talk about what causes an ice storm. Let's take a look at the different types of precipitation. They are rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow. And we're going to take a look at on the left-hand side where it's rain, that's toward the south where the Pennsylvania state line is. And the north on the right-hand side is where Lake Ontario is. For precipitation is dependent on where your location is and how deep the cold air is and how much warm air you have also. So when you look toward the north, toward Lake Ontario, you have snow falling from the clouds and it's cold throughout the entire layer, all the way to the surface. So that snow falls through that cold air, reaches the surface as all snow. Well, when you have warm air advecting, that means it's coming in to your area. You've got this warm nose of warm air because warm air is actually lighter and it rises. Think of when you're building a campfire and they put your hand over the fire, on top of the fire, the heat is rising, where the cold air, if you open up your door or refrigerator, the cold air sinks and hits your feet because cold air is denser and it sinks. So the warm air is riding above that layer of cold air. So at cloud level, it's still snow, but and sleet, it gets to this area of warm air and it melts into rain. And then as it falls further toward the surface, it gets cold into cold air again and it freezes and it forms little pellets of sleet. And then as you move further south, you have a much larger wedge of warm air. And you still have the snow at the cloud level. It's falling through the warm air, becoming rain. And because the cold air is so shallow at the surface, it doesn't get that chance to form into sleet, but it becomes rain all the way to the surface where temperatures are below freezing, and it hits and it becomes freezing rain. Now toward Pennsylvania, you have the cold air falling from the clouds, but you have warm air all the way to the surface. So the precipitation melts and reaches the ground as rain. Now, also what happens is that warm air holds more moisture than cold air. So as this warm air is streaming above this cold air, it's being wrung out like a sponge. And that's going to produce that copious amounts of precipitation. And depending where you are, rain, freezing rain, sleet, or snow, this warm air is going to move further to the north throughout the night to about 10, 11 at night. And then the high pressure, we're going to talk about in a minute, is going to strengthen and it's going to push that bubble of warm air a little bit further to the south. 11 o'clock to midnight. This is Earth Null School. And it's showing the wind flow. As you can see, it's coming from the north in Canada. And it's coming right over Western New York. And if you look at the map here, the blues are below freezing, the greens are above freezing. So anywhere that's green, it's raining. Anywhere that's blue, you're getting either snow, sleet, or freezing rain. This is the current as of map as of Wednesday late afternoon. So right now at the surface, we're at 27.3 degrees, all right, Fahrenheit. I'm going to go now to the 850 millibar level, which is 1 mile up in the atmosphere. And The problem is it's warmer at 28.2 1 mile up than it was at the surface at 27. What you have here is now at the 850 millibar level 1 mile up, you have winds from the south, and they're coming into Buffalo like this. So it's 28.2 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's at 1 mile up, and it was only 27 at the surface. So now it's beginning to get warmer up above that. That layer of warm air is starting to evect into the area, and that line, that air is going to move further north throughout the night, and that's going to cause our different types of precipitation. So once again, we have warm air that's starting to advance into the area, and that's causing the different types of precipitation. Looking at the map, we have a large and complex storm system bringing widespread mixed precipitation in the form of snow, sleet, freezing rain, and even plain rain to the region through tonight. We have a very light mixed precipitation will continue on Thursday, before later on we have a strong cold front plowing through on Thursday night, switching all the mixed precipitation back to nuisance snow for Friday. So right now, we have two low pressure systems. We have one over Ohio, which is here, northern Ohio, and one over Colorado. This is going to be at about 10 o'clock tonight with the mixed precipitation. And the surge, this is the final one that's going to pass through tomorrow night. This is the one that's going to pass through this early this morning. So what we're going to have is a surge of precipitation spreading across western New York, started late this afternoon. And as of late this afternoon, the precipitation was mainly snow from Buffalo to Rochester northward, with a transition zone to a mix of wintry types, freezing rain and sleet across the western southern tier. This pattern is driven by that low pressure system over the Ohio Valley, carrying that warm air aloft that we showed you earlier with high moisture content. The precipitation will continue to spread into the area through tonight as the surface low tracks along or close to the New York-Pennsylvania state line. So this track of this low pressure system will kind of track across the state line like this. Okay, that's the track of it through tonight. Now, as it gets closer to western New York, the snow and the mixed precipitation is going to increase in intensity as we move through the rest of the afternoon into the evening hours, as the elevated portion of the warm frontal slope that we showed you earlier advances into western New York. Warming within this elevated layer will lead to a transition toward freezing rain and sleet. This is already occurring across the western southern tier. Current trends would place this transition zone into the Buffalo metro area over to the Finger Lakes by early evening, and then to the south shore of Lake Ontario by mid to late evening. Further warming within this layer later tonight will eventually lead to all rain across the western southern tier by the late evening or early overnight hours. Then we have this strengthening northeast flow, and what's happening is this high pressure over Moosonee, which is right here at 30.50 inches. It's going to, as it increases in intensity, its high pressure circulate clockwise. So the flow that we showed you earlier, as it increases, is going to pump a little bit more colder air after midnight, and that's going to change back to freezing rain and sleet toward the Lake Ontario counties. 6 hours later, this low slides further to the east tonight. We're going to be in between systems, and what's happening is that this system is going to want to have moisture. The system back over Iowa wants to have moisture, and in between it's kind of pulling the moisture from both sides. So it's going to be a little bubble where there's no, well, limited moisture, and it's going to bring an end to the steadier and heavier precipitation later tonight in the wee hours of the morning. And what it's going to do is support areas of light freezing rain, freezing drizzle, or light rain drizzle, depending on the temperatures. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the latest weather models. Well, this is a map of the precipitation type going throughout the area. The green shades are rain. The peach shades are freezing rain. The purple is sleet, and the blue is snow. So about 2 o'clock this afternoon, we're going to have some snow moving into the Buffalo area with maybe a little bit of rain to start right around the lake shore. Freezing rain is going to be in Chautauqua County, southern Chautauqua County. The rest of the area is snow. As we move through till 3 o'clock, you can see that advancing, freezing rain advancing into Chautauqua County, rain by the lake shore, snow moving into Buffalo, starting to accumulate. By 4, it's accumulating in Buffalo and southern Erie County points north. Freezing rain in the southern tier with a little bit of rain in the lakeshore Chautauqua County and in the lower elevations. By 5 o'clock, the southern tier is starting to become rain with freezing rain in southern Erie County and the higher elevations of the western southern tier, with sleet from between the Thruway and 20A in Buffalo, and snow to the north. By 6 o'clock, that line is advancing further north. By 7 o'clock, it's almost to Tonawanda Creek. Snow north of Tonawanda Creek. South of Tonawanda Creek, you have sleet in central and northern Erie County, freezing rain in parts of southern Erie County. And once you get into southwest Erie County and into the southern tier, you have rain. As we move to 8 o'clock, the freezing rain now moves a little bit further north. You have freezing rain in the Buffalo South Town, sleet in central Erie County, all the way to the Niagara Escarpment. And then you have below the Niagara Escarpment, you have snow. By 9 o'clock, you have freezing rain still in the Buffalo South Towns, more of a sleet in northern and central Erie County, all the way up to the Lake Ontario shoreline, and rain in the southern tier. 10 o'clock, you still have rain in the southern tier. That line of freezing rain has now moved into Buffalo, with scattered freezing rain by the Tonawanda Creek and sleet all the way up into Lake Ontario. By 11 o'clock, that line kind of becomes stationary. And by 12, you can see at midnight, it's starting to move again toward the south, where we have mainly sleet north of the city, and still freezing rain in Buffalo, with the south towns now all the way into the southern tier having just mainly rain. And that area just advances very slowly to the south. Sleet becomes prevalent in Buffalo after 1 a.m. All the way to the north, where you do have the freezing rain in the Buffalo South Towns, and far southern Erie County in the southern tier, you have rain. By 2 a.m., the rain shield is now leaving Buffalo. So the precipitation is going to diminish to scattered light rain showers, drizzle, or scattered light freezing rain drizzle. So you're still going to have a little bit, but the worst is over at that point. Let's take a look at the National Weather Service blend of models, with the temperatures starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Greens are above freezing, blues below freezing. Buffalo's hanging on at 33, Rochester 31. And as I move through the night, you could see that the temperatures in Buffalo are slowly falling at the surface, even though it's warming up above at 10 o'clock tonight. Toronto 23, Buffalo 32. And Jamestown, even by midnight, is 46 with Buffalo at 32. And over in the Falls, it's still 29. So 28. So very sharp temperature gradient. And then by 2 a.m., we're still 32 in Buffalo. It never gets above freezing. And temperatures slowly cool through the night. Well, let's look at precipitation for about the next 11 hours. The purples are over 1 inch. The blues are less than between an inch and a half an inch, and the greens are less than a half an inch. So around the Buffalo area, they got the bullseye 1 inch, a little bit over 1 inch. North of the city, we're at between an inch and 3/4 of an inch. And the same thing with south of the city, or over an inch of precipitation through 1 a.m. By 7 a.m., most of the area is above an inch of precipitation, just barely over an inch, maybe an inch to an inch and a quarter through Thursday morning. Let's look at snowfall. Anything in the grays is less than an inch. The light blues is a little over an inch, a little over. And as the blues get deeper, the deep blue is 3 inches. So what you have here by 1 a.m. is southern Erie County, less than an inch of snow. Around the Buffalo area and northern Erie County, all the way up to about Niagara Falls, you're at 1 to 2 inches, and by the Lake Ontario shore, 2 to 3 inches of snow. By 7 o'clock on the 23rd, it does not change very much, just a little bit more snow, but very similar to the results. As we look from earlier, as we look at the ice, the bullseye looks to be Buffalo from the Thruway to about Interstate 90 to about the 20A. Looks to be the bullseye with ice. Very low ice in Chautauqua County. Of course, it doesn't take much to cause hazardous driving conditions under a 10th. And as you move into Erie County, you're looking at about 3/10 of an inch of ice. And as you move further north into Niagara County, where you're going to have more cold air, you're going to have about 1 to 2/10 of an inch of ice in Niagara County. And going along into Orleans County, you're going to have maybe a 1/10 to a little under a 1/10 of ice. Finally, we're going to talk about wind gusts, especially tonight with the icing and non-melting, especially north of the city, and the wind gusts producing extra wind load on whatever the weight is from the ice. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, the winds are going to be from the east all the way until about 2 in the morning. When the snow and sleet and freezing rain subside into freezing drizzle, the winds are going to shift to the northeast. So looking at Buffalo, 21-mile-an-hour wind gusts at 3 o'clock, 27 by dusk, 30 miles an hour after dusk. And here comes the freezing rain, 32-mile-an-hour wind gusts, 34, 35, especially over Lake Ontario, the shoreline. We're talking 45 to 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts along the Lake Ontario shoreline. And Niagara County is going to be in the 40s for wind gusts, and the same thing for parts of northern Orleans County. So a lot of wind gusts, and as you move through, they're going to slowly, well, they're going to stay in the 30s in Buffalo, but slowly subside in Niagara County, but still be gusty 25 at 3 a.m., and they're slowly letting up 17 miles an hour by dawn on Thursday. Niagara County by the lakeshore, 25 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts. Southern tier, not bad with any wind gusts, and you have you're going to have warming there, so you won't have any ice problems. This is the Sperry Piltz Ice Accumulation Index. We're going to have sustained winds of 15 to 25 miles per hour. So in areas to the north of Buffalo where they're expecting that 10th to quarter inch of rain, we're under ice damage index of 1, which is some isolated or localized utility interruptions, possible, typically lasting only a few hours. Roads and bridges may become slick and hazardous. Around Buffalo and a little bit to the south of Buffalo up to about Route 20A, we're going to have that quarter to half an inch ice with 15 to 25 mile per hour winds. You could get scattered utility interruptions expected, typically lasting to 12 to 24 hours. Roads and travel conditions may become extremely hazardous due to the ice accumulation. If you want to see more of these posts or would like to say things for this one, please consider becoming a supporter. To support the channel, go to patreon.com/WXMedic. This is Jack Knack, the Weather Medic, the Doctor of Weather. Thanks for making Weather Buff a part of your day. Good day, everyone.
Weather Buff.